Welcome in the name of IRISCC to everybody to this seventh and last session concerning the webinar series on the research infrastructures related with IRISCC. As you already know, IRISCC is a project that it's aiming to integrate climate change risks related services along 14 European leading research infrastructures. And today we do have the pleasure to have among us Massimiliano Asante from the Italian National Research Council, who's going to be talking about D4Science. And we also have the pleasure to have Sandro Luigi Fiore from the University of Trento, who's going to be talking about IS-ENES, stands for Infrastructure for the European Network for Earth System Modeling. As in the previous sessions, we've approached the speakers and asked them three things. If they could explain to us briefly what their research infrastructure is about and how this infrastructure fits in the context of IRISCC. And finally, if they could give us some examples about climate change risks related data sets or services that are coming from their research infrastructure. And in previous sessions, we're going to do the same in here. We're going to be recording this introductory part for our YouTube channel. And after that, we're going to stop the recording and we're going to move to the questions part. So this is what I wanted to say before giving the floor to our first speaker, who is going to be Massimiliano. Massimiliano, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bernard. I'll try to share my screen. And in presentation mode. Can you see it?
We can see it. Yeah, it's in presentation mode, yes.
Fantastic. All right. So thank you for the introduction, Bernard. So we are going to dive a deep on what is D4Science and how D4Science, let's say, supports IRISCC, demonstrators through its infrastructure. Let's start with, basically talk about what is D4Science. So D4Science, it is a digital infrastructure for collaborative scientific research that combines over 500 software components into a coherent and centrally managed system of hardware, software, and data resources. And in D4Science, we say try hard in promoting open science practices through the operation of this digital infrastructure service, let's say. And we do that by, I will try to explain this with this slide, with this picture that should be on your right. We do this by leveraging on external systems such as data storage, cloud-based infrastructure, networks, and so on. And we we expose them in what we call a common unified space of resources. So, which is the middle layer that you can see in the picture here. In doing so, we are able to serve diverse community of researchers via the provision of tailored digital services, and sharing tools. And we do this by, let's say, all of this is made accessible through a flexible web-based and on-demand environments, online environments that are called virtual research environments. Now, let's see briefly the history from D4Science. D4Science started with a pilot, let's say, a couple of pilot projects within the 7th Framework European Program in 2008. So two successive projects, 2008-2012. Then from 2014, started, let's say, the production phase, and a number of European projects, very different among each other, very different in also disciplines and subjects, have started to, let's say, adopt D4Science for let's say, the development of their digital services within Horizon 2020. Then we have moved to the Horizon, let's say, Europe program. So D4Science is owned and managed by CNR. It supports currently S3 ARIs, S3 roadmap ARIs, but also national and European projects, and national and international initiatives. It is distributed among over 4 sites in Italy, the main site in Pisa, and then there are 3, say, other sites distributed in southern Italy, and provided by GAR, which is the Italian NREN. So we have one site in Naples, one in Palermo, and one in Catania. So I will try to explain a little bit more how we serve IRIS community, with also, helping myself with the picture that I've shown above. So you see the external system above, the common unified space of resources, and then the community above. So thanks to this common unified space of resources, we are able to, let's say, dedicate a subset of these, let's say, resources that can be digital service, there are hardware resources, but also networking resources, and let's say allocate them for a dedicated community, of course, preserving also all the privacy and the already required, let's say, GDPR rules and so on. In terms of communities, currently we in D4Science serves 6 communities. One of them is the Earth Science communities. And if you look within the Earth Science community, you will find IRISCC. So IRISCC, so how do IRISCC, say, users can use D4Science? So they have at their disposal one common place that is, let's say, useful for collaboration, sharing, reuse, and reproducibility actions. Within this space, you find also a number of collaborative data analysis tools. So there are a number of, let's say, VLE core services that helps user in performing their, let's say, data analytics, and executing the, let's say, methods and algorithms from an infrastructure. There's a number of core services, and on top of that, user can use, say, Jupyter notebooks, but also RStudios. If they are keen still with R, they can develop and integrate their Shiny apps. D4Science itself makes at disposals one analytics engine where user can import their method and in the platform and execute it. And there is also the possibility to, let's say, integrate a custom service or application within infrastructure and make it available for the users. So one other features that is let's say, useful, for researchers when they do the analysis is that they want to publish, let's say, their results of the analysis as early as possible, let's say, with the members of the VRE. And for doing that, they have available a fully fledged, let's say, catalog, a metadata catalog, where they can indeed publish their own research products coming from the analytics and the algorithms that they have developed. So they can associate a custom metadata schema to their research products and also upload, of course, they payload the data itself. Here we see just an example. That is form-wise. So of course, each research product can have a license associated, number of tags, a number of resources, and a persistence URL, and a number of custom metadata that the community itself can choose. So this is to say that when a researcher uses D4Science, she or he can basically, let's say, perform the whole, let's say, research life cycle. So here we see a prototype research life cycle. We start from basically importing the research data into the VRE, importing the software, executing the software over the infrastructure, obtaining the data, and then publishing the results. And the IRISC VRE that say is operating within D4Science exactly allows to do that. And by doing this, you are able to also reproduce, and reuse the results to active collaborate and effective sharing the results of your research work, maintaining provenance and attribution. We do that in D4Science by adopting an as-a-service approach, a number of standards, of course, for interoperability, and economy of scale to reduce operational costs. And this is just to give you a brief, right, say, look at the virtual laboratories that can be constructed on D4Science, just at a glance, to see how they look like in reality. So we have talked about a number of D4Science features, how the researcher can use the VRE, and this is how basically VLabs looks like. You can see also that the custom application, you can see integrated custom application where the map of the Europe is. You can see notebooks, you can see shiny apps here, and so on. But let's see now, let's focus on Iris. So where do I go to use the IRISC VRE? There is what we call the IRISC VRE gateway that serves as a central entry point to the project's computational resources, irisc.d4science.org. The key features are that it supports federated authentication, so you can log in with your, for instance, for your academic credentials, but also using other identity providers such as LinkedIn, but also ORCID. When you log in, you land, let's say, on a dashboard that gives you the possibility to explore the current, let's say, IRISC VLab offers that is available in the gateway. In the picture here, you see 3 of the virtual labs coming from WP4 demonstrator that are currently, now they are 4 available. We will see that in a minute. There is a possibility for user to use what we call the workspace, which is a file sync and share service, allowing user to upload their files and share them, create the folder and share them with the others. Possibility to exchange private messages with the others. And of course, as I was saying, the IRISC VRE gateway is the entry points to the demonstrators virtual labs. Currently, we have 4 virtual labs available from IRISC in the IRISC VRE. So we have the future draft risk on ecosystem virtual labs, the wildfires in Europe virtual labs, the environmental exposures and health virtual lab, and finally the coastal flood risk analysis virtual labs. All of them, let's say, we will see that in a minute, use have used and are using a number of services that D4Science makes available, and they are also integrating their own application or writing their own notebook within the virtual lab space with the, let's say, the virtual lab users. And this is, so let's see what is a virtual lab. So it is a dedicated environment that is tailored specifically for each demonstrator project. And the VLabs provide customized and secure access to specific datasets, analysis tools, and computational methods that can be imported by the VLabs users. And each VLab isolates the demonstrator work, ensuring a reproducible environment. And for the, say, curiosity user that just want to see how this works, we also have a showcase virtual lab that is named IRISCC Virtual Lab. It is publicly available. And if you want to, familiarize with it, you will find it in the iriscc.d4science.org gateway. So what are the, as I was saying, the core VLab services? We said we have the workspace, Jupyter Lab. Of course, everyone is using it now, so this is possible to use Jupyter Lab. And here, the added value is that we are able to customize the server option for the virtual lab community. There is also the possibility to use RStudio for those that are keen with R and RStudio IDE. The possibility here, you see the cloud computing platforms, a screenshot where user can import their own method, their own algorithm, and specify the inputs parameter and execute it in the cloud infrastructure made available by D4Science. Shiny proxies, I was saying. So Jupyter Lab, I was saying, it is fully integrated and it supports flexible configurations. So a choice of various virtual machine sizes and configuration. Here you see 3 server options with different, let's say, size in terms of CPU cores and memory RAM available. And you can see here that there is also a IRISCC IS-ENES server that were, let's say, customized by IS-ENES users and integrated in D4Science, and is available in the currently in the IRISCC lab, so the free one, the lab that is open to any users. So basically, we are available to collaborate with demonstrator and create custom images configured with specific libraries or configurations that are needed for the virtual laboratories work. There is also the possibility to use GPU accelerated virtual machines in Jupyter Hub. Currently, we have a bunch of NVIDIA V100 server available with the features that you see in the slides. And basically, so each VLabs goes from the specification to a service. And it is, I would like to underline here that building a virtual lab in IRIS is really a co-creation work. So each VLab is being configured to match the specific data, tools, and computational needs by the goal of the VLab, with the final goal to deliver a dedicated, customized virtual lab for each demonstrator, and of course for each demonstrator specific case. And these are the IRISCC VLabs at a glance, the real ones. You can see here, for instance, the causal flow risk analysis virtual labs as its own server option available in Jupyter Lab with their own necessary packages and configurations that are needed for running their own analysis. and this is also, for instance, performed by in other virtual labs. And you see the applications that are available on in the virtual lab are different depending on the real virtual lab needs. For instance, the wildfires in Europe, virtual labs is also using RStudio, whereas the coastal flood risk analysis is not using it. It just, we are able to, let's say, really customize the services available on demand. And that's it. I hope I was on time. And thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you very much, Massimiliano. That was a comprehensive approach to D4Science. I see we do have already one question in the chat. As I was saying in the beginning, we will go through the questions in the end of the presentation, but in the meantime, if you want to answer, you can do it. Right now, we are going to move, as I said, to the second presentation, this time with Sandro, who's going to be talking about IS-ENES. Sandro, whenever you are, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Bernard. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure today to give a presentation within this IRISCC Research Infrastructure series webinar. I will be talking about the IS-ENES, the infrastructure for the European Network for System Modeling, and how that links to the IRISCC projects. So, before we get into the presentation, I would like just to introduce a little bit myself. I am associate professor at the University of Trento, where I teach courses on high-performance computing, software engineering, data science, and the university I lead the high-performance climate informatics laboratory, where we do R&D on computational and data sciences applied to climate change. Addressing topics in the areas of scientific data management, HPC, big data and AI convergence, workflow and provenance management, sustainable computing. So today I'm going to present three main topics in this slide deck. The first one is the ENES community, the most important and relevant experiment that the community is involved in, which is the CMIP, the infrastructure behind it, and then I will provide information about how the INES community links at the infrastructure, links to the IRISCC project, the contribution from this community to this to the IRISCC project, and then I will go into more specifically into one of the services provided as virtual access by the INES community in the IRISCC project. So about the community, INES is the European Network for System Modeling. It was that was launched in 2001, so it's 25 years now. And this community is strongly involved in the assessment of the IPCC and provides predictions on which EU mitigation and adaptation policies are elaborated. So that's the community. The infrastructure behind it is called the IS-ENES, and that was supported by 3 cycles of European projects called IS-ENES. It was the phase 1 in 2009-2013, then IS-ENES 2 2013-2017, and then IS-ENES 3 which started 2019 and then 2022. As one of the final outcomes of this of the third phase of this project, basically, a roadmap was also prepared. I will talk about it just in a moment. So ENES, which is the community, through ENES promotes the development of a common distributed modeling research infrastructure in Europe to facilitate the development and exploitation of climate models and better fulfill the societal needs with regards to climate change issues. So I would say that we basically cover from science to policy, and including the infrastructural part that is a key topic for today's seminar. So as said before, at the end of the IS-ENES 3, an infrastructure strategy was set up, a 10-year, let's say, strategy, which is about the infrastructure of the community. And that includes a lot of aspects and topics like high-performance computing, model development, collaboration, diagnostics, data systems, and also workforce. And this strategy, there are also quite several recommendations that cover all the areas that I just mentioned. And this report is freely available in case you are interested. You can download it from the web. One of the most important things in terms of scientific activities from the ENES community is the part concerning the Earth system model simulations, which is something very complex, need large supercomputing machines, involves a lot of science because physics, chemistry, biology, geology, and we need to simulate and basically to model and then simulate the complex and interacting processes at different scales with sophisticated numerics. Besides requiring hundreds of millions of core hours to run, the simulations also deliver huge volumes of data that, of course, need to be post-processed, need to be analyzed, and that's where basically downstream, we see the link with the IRISCC project because, as I will show at the end of towards the end of the presentation, one of the main contributions from the community in IRISCC is basically related to climate indicators, and climate indicators relates to climate change risk because climate change risk is basically the hazard and let's say considers three elements, which are the hazards, the vulnerability, and the exposure, and the climate indicators are strongly related to the other part, so can help basically understanding and studying climate change risk. So the workflow that I'm just showing here, it's let's say quite multifaceted because it includes the modeling part on HPC, the data intensive part regarding data processing, and also the data driven part, which is the data science and learning, which it's also related to the AI part. So the community is strongly involved into large experiments, and one of the most relevant is the couple model intercomparison project, which actually provides let's say the scientific foundation also for the IPCC assessment report. This project consists of multiple phases, each phase lasts around 6 years, so it covers, let's say, multiple challenges, both the science part, as I said before, the policy part, and also infrastructural part. And this experiment is so important because it covers the scientific foundation for the IPCC report, and so reports that, of course, are very important to define, and so options for adaptation and mitigation. So if we look at this experiment, basically the history and its evolution, it's quite interesting. The first phase started in 1995 with 1 gigabyte of data produced, and the last phase, CMIP6, and just 7 years ago, delivering 20 petabytes of data to the scientific community. Now we are basically into the CMIP7 phase, and so that's something that is now involving the community from different point of view. It's interesting to see how the 20 petabytes of data are today a big data, let's say, challenge for the community, like it was 1 gigabyte of data in 1995. So how do we handle this large amount of data? Basically, we rely on the Earth System Grid Federation, which is the international infrastructure. It's a federated data archive that allows to share the Earth system model outputs across all the, let's say, continents, and make data available to tens of thousands of users working on in the climate change domain. So if we just look a little bit at the statistics about this infrastructure, just to understand how much this data are exploited, we can easily see that there are data downloaded from more than 200 countries, hundreds of millions of downloads happening, tens of petabytes of data downloaded over time. These are just statistics that we captured just in the last year. This infrastructure is quite articulated and needs a lot of effort in terms of development, but also operations, because it's important for the end users to have something that is robust, efficient, but also robust and and so reliable. And easiness is actually comes into play in this international collaboration, providing the European contribution to ESGF. So yes, European partners are basically contributing through easiness to the larger Earth System Grid Federation. I will not go into the technical details of the components of this federated infrastructure, but I leave this slide for anyone that wants just to deep dive a little bit in some of the aspects, maybe the search aspect or the data access part, or maybe something more related to metadata or simulations. So the main challenges, if we just want to deal at very high level, are about managing petabytes of data, supporting heterogeneous type of data. It's not just about model outputs, but also observational data. The, let's say, distributed nature of the data archive, and then the need for not only for downloading the data, but also for computing aspects. And that's something that relates to the second service, which is offered by DKRZ as virtual access within the IRISCC project. Just going to the contribution of the community to the IRISCC project, there are three partners that are actively involved into IRISCC: DKRZ, which is the German tier 0 in Europe, which provides the ESGF data node, and in addition to an interoperable gateway together with D4Science that was previously presented. And another activities related to the DKRZ, the WPS service, which indeed relate to the computing part, which I mentioned just in the previous slide. And that's an important, let's say, capability that is offered to the end user, because instead of downloading data, we can remotely, let's say, server side, analyze the data, and that can be very useful. Just to make some example at the university level for PhD students that maybe are not equipped with a large computing infrastructure, and so they can do remote analysis on at the DKRZ site. Other contributions are from KNMI with the Climate for Impact and ICCLIM. This is more about the climate impact portal and climate indicators, and there is also contribution about the virtual research environment interoperability studies. Serfax is the third partner from INES involved in demonstrators activity, providing data tailored to the demonstrators, and so that's basically related to the climate indicators and so to the hazard part of the climate change risk. Serfax is also software provider of the ICCLIM package that can help calculating climate indices starting from the data that are produced by the Earth System Model simulations. So the entire data federation that I mentioned before actually provide the data that downstream are used by the climate change impact users that take those data, use tools like ICCLIM, and then generate climate indicators. There are two virtual access services provided by the community, and so by these three partners in IRISCC. One is the Climate Data Portal hosted at DKRZ. The second one is Climate for Impact, the Climate for Impact platform. These are the two snapshots from the IRISCC website, and so the two services are provided and registered into the IRISCC catalog of services, and those are available as virtual access, which means that the user can just go to the link which is in the slide and have some resources to run, for instance, the WPS service I mentioned before, or use the Climate for Impact platform. So there is a dedicated environment ready to use for the end users as part of the virtual access service provisioning. Let's try now to go a little bit into the details of one of these two services, which is the Climate for Impact portal. And here we'll see the functionalities that are available to the end users to run climate impact studies. The platform provides a couple of user profiles. One is guest, which allows users to do basic search and local download. Then there is the registered user that can do some data analysis and subsetting. So the registration is needed whenever we basically come to the computing part. And so it's not just a matter of downloading data, but we also need the computational resources to run our analysis. There is a registration procedure which is quite easy and straightforward. Just as a reference, I'm leaving it within this slide for those of you who are interested in registering to the system. There are several projects that are supported by Climate for Impact because, of course, the functionality itself is not enough. We also need to get access to the right input data. And the Climate for Impact portal provides access to some of the most relevant community projects like the CIMIP6, the CIMIP5, and Cordex is coming soon. And that means that these three main community projects are able, let's say, to address research questions from a lot of users, so let's say thousands of users. So having just these three projects in the Climate for Impact enable research for a lot of scientists worldwide. What can we do with Climate for Impact? There are advanced search capabilities. It's not easy to search in a catalog that contains tens of millions of files. So being properly guided and filtering properly and finding the right data and the right variable is not, let's say, straightforward. So Climate for Impact helps a lot scientists to do this task. And there are, of course, other aspects that can be a little bit more, let's say, customized by the users by using some parameters that are provided by the interface. One more thing is the models performance comparison. Here we are basically we're able to compare the output of two models calculated by ESM Val tool, which is a tool for diagnostics, and that's something that allows basically to compare the output of different models in experiments like the CMIP, and that's possible because of the, let's say, of the protocol that is defined in the CMIP experiment. This protocol basically provides sort of agreement in terms of variables to be considered, spatial temporal resolution. And so according to this protocol, then the simulations for the different modeling groups are performed, and then the results are shared via ESGF, and then they can be easily, let's say, from a conceptual perspective, compared. Of course, from a more technical perspective, we need the technical tool to do this sort of comparison, and that's something that is embedded into the Climate for Impact as a functionality for the user. There is another important thing, which is the workflows and workspaces. Basically, registered users can get access to workspaces, and so they can do some data staging, and so they have their own space to upload the data and then run some data analysis. And again, this can be very useful for a lot of users because they can get access to a computing environment that is properly set up for climate scientists. And WPS is the standard OGC interface for the processing of the data. There is also the Swirl environment that combines multiple aspects here. It provides a collaborative workspace that combines reproducible notebooks, workflow, and visualization tools on the cloud. So here there are two interesting points. One is the infrastructural part, which enables the run of workflows and notebooks in a scalable manner. And the other thing is that the environment is designed in a way it can help scientists reproducing experiments like notebooks, tracking the provenance, checking two different runs. So it's something that can be very useful, especially because we're living into an open science, let's say, era now. And those are functionalities that are requested by users and, let's say, very useful. And here we can see just picture which show the reproducibly control by the user. So we can basically monitor the workflow. We can create snapshots as binders. So we can roll back to previous version, and we can check the history because there is provenance tracking about the evolution of our workflow, and so we can go, let's say, back and forth into the history of workflow that has been developed by a user. And that somehow helps a lot the reproducibility, let's say, workflow by the users. Here we can see, for instance, in a standard W2C prov representation of the provenance activities in the system. And that's something that can be also exported and inspected by user also afterwards. So what else? This portal is basically planned to include other data from CMS 6 and 7 and Cordex as well. So Cordex will be an important aspect that will come also thanks to another project that will address the publication of the data produced by the Cordex community. There will be again new capabilities that will be offered by the IC-Claim software package. The same functionalities will be also available from a web interface in the climate for impact to the IRISCC people. And then there will be an extension of the scope of the climate for impact with the Climate Explorer functionalities, and this will be run by KNMI. One important thing is also the support that will be coming from two new projects, Futura and NS-RISE, which are two projects from the NS community, let's say, from our community, which address two main points. Futura defines and delivers next generation climate pathways and policy relevant science. It builds upon three main pillars, science, policy, and infrastructure. INES-RISE is mostly taking care of the operations, and so the infrastructure part. So INES-RISE will be supporting Futura because we'll take care of the operations, while Futura will be basically advancing on the three pillars that I mentioned before, including the new capabilities that will be offered by the infrastructure. So on one side, we have, for instance, development, like in Futura. In NS-RISE, we have more operations. I'm trying just to give you a very high-level idea about the two, but it's important to see that these two projects would be collaborating quite a lot. And actually, they will start in 10 days, June 1st, together. And they are basically projects that have been funded in the Horizon Europe calls that closed last summer. And of course, we can expect more, let's say, cross-pollination between these projects and IRISCC in the next future. And with that, I'm finished my presentation. I hope I was on time. Thank you for your attention. I'll be happy to take questions, if any.
Thank you very much, Sandro. You were on time, yes. Thank you very much for that comprehensive approach as well to your research infrastructure. I think it was very interesting to see in this last session the virtual dimension that IRISCC is also dealing with when Sandro and Massimiliano, they've been introducing different virtual research environments and virtual access. In most of the previous sessions, we've been actually talking about transnational and remote access physical ones. As there was also an open call ongoing, but I think it's still interesting that the audience can also go and have a look in the catalog of services and check these virtual options that they do exist already there. And in that regard, also remind the audience that in a couple of months, in mid-July, we're going to be opening the next access call, transnational remote access. So I encourage everybody to have a look at the catalog of services to the different services, and maybe there is something it's relevant for your research, and you can take advantage of that for your next proposal. Just a reminder that the virtual access, it's open anytime, so you are not depending on these IRISCC transnational access calls. Once again, thank you, Sandro and Massimiliano, and thank you everyone who has been attending the webinar. We still have about 10 minutes for questions, so I'm going to stop the recording here and we are going to move to the questions.